on January 6th, while more than 140 officers were being brutally assaulted by Trump's mob, while rioters beat them with flagpoles and sprayed them with chemical agents and crushed them in doorways.
Representative Jamie Raskin praises Special Counsel Jack Smith for his professionalism, integrity, and dedication in investigating actions taken after the 2020 election. Raskin emphasizes how Smith's adherence to law and evidence contrasts sharply with political interference and underscores the importance of upholding the rule of law.
Everybody here knows what you did wrong in Donald Trump's eyes and why he says you belong in prison. You found, and I quote from your sworn testimony before the committee, you found proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election and to prevent the lawful transfer of power. When asked whether you believe the evidence was enough to obtain a criminal conviction against Donald Trump at trial, you had a one-word answer: yes. When asked if Donald Trump was responsible for the violence that took place at the Capitol on January 6th, you said, our view of the evidence was that he caused it and that he exploited it and that it was foreseeable to him. You found that Trump knew he had lost the election. How? Well, his own Attorney General, William Barr, repeatedly told him so and described all of Trump's theories as BS. Trump's top campaign advisors told him he lost the election. Vice President Pence told him he lost the election. More than 60 federal, state, and court decisions, including 8 rendered by judges he appointed to the bench, rejected every outlandish election fraud and corruption claim that he made. Trump himself even privately acknowledged it, gesturing to Joe Biden on TV and saying, quote, "Can you believe I lost to that effing guy?" He knew he lost, but he threw everything into his big lie, which some people, even in this room to this day, will stand by and swear by. Well, when the big lie wasn't enough to convince officials like Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, a Republican, to commit election fraud and just fine Trump 11,780 votes, when it wasn't enough to convince Trump's DOJ to, quote, just call the election corrupt and leave the rest to me and the House Republicans, when it wasn't enough to force Vice President Mike Pence to announce and then exercise lawless powers to reject Electoral College votes and use counterfeit slates to anoint Trump the winner, that's when Trump incited mass violence on January 6th. While more than 140 officers were being brutally assaulted by Trump's mob, while rioters beat them with flagpoles and sprayed them with chemical agents and crushed them in doorways, and while they chanted, "Hang Mike Pence," and chased the vice president out of the Capitol, Trump and his team worked the phones, calling not the National Guard, which was under the direct unilateral control of Donald Trump, but calling members of Congress, urging them to delay certification and to nullify the election results. Special Counsel Smith, you pursued the facts. You followed every applicable law, ethics rule, and DOJ regulation. Your decisions were reviewed by the Public Integrity Section. You acted based solely on the facts, the opposite of Donald Trump, who now has purported to take over the Department of Justice. He's in charge of the whole thing under his unitary executive theory, and he acts openly, purely based on political vendetta and motives of personal revenge, and he doesn't deny it. Our colleagues have complained about the special counsel's review of toll records, which are phone records like a phone bill, showing only the timing and duration of calls and containing no content, no substance whatsoever from the calls. But those records were lawfully subpoenaed because Donald Trump made those members of Congress relevant to the investigation. It was Trump who chose to call them to advance his criminal scheme. As you testified, Mr. Smith, if Donald Trump had chosen to call a number of Democratic senators, we would have gotten toll records for them too. I trust our colleagues get the point because America certainly gets the point. There is much Mr. Smith still can't talk about, though we know he badly wants to. His investigation developed what he calls powerful evidence that Trump stole documents containing our country's most sensitive secrets, hoarded them in the ballrooms and the bathrooms of his well-trafficked Mar-a-Lago social club. He showed them off to visitors. And then he obstructed a federal investigation by instructing his attorney to pluck out anything really bad before turning materials over to the FBI and having his staff delete incriminating security tape footage. But today, we're not going to hear a lot about that because you are gagged by an absurd judicial order rendered faithfully by Trump's most servile and sycophantic appointee to the federal bench, Judge Eileen Cannon. This order not only blocks release of Volume 2 of your report, which is unprecedented, about the classified document scam, it also gags you from discussing the report or its contents with us, with America. And so we don't know what's in it, but it must be pretty devastating because Donald Trump is desperate to keep Mr. Smith or any other DOJ official for all time from ever releasing it to Congress and to the American people. Now, Mr. Smith, if any of our colleagues foolishly choose to attack you and vilify you today, and I know that's not going to happen from some serious prosecutors over there like Mr. Knott and Mr. Schmidt, who understand what federal prosecutors do and what the rule of law means. But if anybody decides to attack you personally, they will only be revealing their own ignorance of what prosecutors do and their own indifference to what the rule of law requires in America.
Jamie Raskin's words about Special Counsel Jack Smith make it clear that he views Smith as a model of integrity and professionalism. Raskin repeatedly praised Smith for conducting the investigation with strict adherence to law, ethics, and Department of Justice rules. Every decision Smith made, Raskin said, was carefully reviewed by the Public Integrity Section, ensuring that nothing was left to chance or personal bias. Unlike actions driven by politics or personal vendettas, Smith's work followed only the facts, showing exactly how a federal prosecutor should operate. Raskin highlighted Smith's courage in pursuing the truth, even in a highly charged political environment. The investigation dealt with extraordinary and sensitive matters, including actions taken by the sitting president to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Raskin emphasized that Smith followed the evidence wherever it led, without regard for political pressure, public opinion, or potential backlash. His one-word answer to whether the evidence was sufficient for a criminal conviction, yes, underscores the seriousness and clarity of the findings. Raskin framed this as a demonstration of Smith's independence and dedication to justice, qualities essential for maintaining public trust in law enforcement. Raskin also drew attention to the stark contrast between Smith's professionalism and the behavior of those who acted for personal or political gain. He made it clear that Trump's actions, including pressuring officials, attempting to manipulate the DOJ, and seeking to overturn certified results, were motivated by self-interest and revenge. Meanwhile, Smith operated strictly within the law. Raskin stressed that any attempt to attack Smith personally would reveal more about the attacker than the special counsel, exposing ignorance of how prosecutors operate and indifference to the rule of law. A major point Raskin made was Smith's ability to work under extraordinary constraints. A judicial order blocked him from publicly discussing key portions of his investigation, including highly sensitive matters like classified documents. Despite this, Smith provided Congress and the American people with as much information as legally possible. Raskin highlighted this as an example of integrity. Smith respected judicial boundaries while still fulfilling his duty to ensure transparency and accountability wherever possible. Raskin also emphasized Smith's meticulous, evidence-driven approach. Even the review of phone toll records, which only included call timing and duration, was done lawfully because Trump's own actions made members of Congress relevant to the investigation. Every call, every piece of evidence was treated with care, demonstrating Smith's commitment to due process. Raskin presented this as a clear illustration of how ethical, independent prosecutors protect the public interest and defend democratic institutions. Throughout the hearing, Raskin repeatedly underscored that Smith's work provided clarity, accountability, and a record for the American people. His investigation revealed that Trump knew he lost the election, yet pursued illegal schemes to overturn the results, directly contributing to the violence on January 6th, and hoarded sensitive national security documents at Mar-a-Lago. Raskin stressed that Smith acted with courage and independence throughout, ensuring the evidence was presented without bias, despite political pressure and unprecedented legal challenges. In closing, Raskin framed Jack Smith as a figure whose professionalism, integrity, and dedication to facts represent the very best of law enforcement. He showed that adherence to law, ethics, and careful evidence-based investigation is essential to protecting democratic institutions. According to Raskin, Smith's work proves that accountability is nonpartisan, that the rule of law can be upheld even in the most politically charged circumstances, and that maintaining public trust depends on individuals willing to act with integrity, courage, and independence.